This is the actual microphone right here, right?
Yes, the PA mic.
All you have to do is go like that. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning for Mayor Michael P. Manning's 6th State of the City address. We'd like to especially thank this Watervliet City School District for allowing us to use the Watervliet High School today for this very special moment for Mayor Michael P. Manning. I'd like to recognize Superintendent Lori Kaplan. Thank you very much, Superintendent. Also, Principal Grote, I believe he's here somewhere. Thank you very much for allowing us to use your gym today for this. And especially to all of you students that are here today. Thank you so much. It is a very, very special occasion for you to be here with us today to witness the 6th State of the City address by Mayor Manning, and I'm sure Mr. Burke, who attends all your government classes, are very happy to see you here also to get the credit you so deserve for that government class. We have some very special guests with us here today. First, I'd like to introduce Assemblyman John McDonald from the 108th Assembly District. Assemblyman, thank you for being here. Councilwoman Ellen Fogarty from the City of Watervliet. Councilman Nick Foglia from the City of Watervliet. Members of the faculty that are here today for the State of the City address, thank you for being here with your students. Appreciate it very much. And again, Superintendent Kaplan and Principal Grout, we thank you very much for allowing us to be here today also. Today is a very special day. This is Mayor Manning's 6th State of the City address. Each year that he gets up here, it gets more and more exciting to hear what's going to happen in our great city of Watervliet and what Mayor Manning and his administration are going to do for the following year in 2013. I think when he is completed with his State of the City address, you'll be as excited as we are as part of his administration. So without any further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you the great mayor of the City of Watervliet, Mayor Michael P. Manning.
Thanks, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. And Bruce didn't get to mention thank you for giving up your snow day today so I could have this speech here. No? All right. Bruce covered all the thank yous for being here. I'll reiterate again, thanks for having us. This is a great venue to have this talk. Captive audience, of course, but also it's a great facility. We said it last year, breaking this in last year, and here we are again, just flipping it around. State of the City, it's a great opportunity to present this here because we hope that the work we're doing in the city will ensure that we leave Watervliet in a better shape for the future generations of our city, which is, of course, some of you folks here. I'd also like to recognize our city team. Not everybody got mentioned, but it's their work and energy that we can all be proud of. Ellen and Nick, my companions on the council, working every day to make the right decisions and put things in place that take care of us in the present and also as we go forward. And thanks again to John McDonald for being here, a colleague as a mayor of Cohoes and now in the Assembly. We're getting some folks into the Assembly that know what it's like to run the day-to-day operation of a city as well as a school district, very, very similar. We also have a special treat today. Charles Patricelli and the Housing Authority are here with WVLT broadcasting live, so hello to the thousands of you at home watching this on VLT. The State of the City address is to give an indication of the activities the city government is doing over the past year, and we'll talk about how that affects going forward into 2013. It's an important activity for me, and it's important to the community. Note that this isn't done just for the sake of saying we did it and get a box checked. In this, as in all of our activities, we must constantly be watching as to not make it routine. Falling into routine and going through the motions can cause us not to see or ignore opportunities and solutions to issues. So before I run through the work being done in the city, I'd like to talk about a few issues that took up a lot of our time in 2012. In the finance area, we lead off with this every year. It's a tradition, and we talk at length about it because it is the backbone of how we run the city. It's a top priority of mine, and it's an issue that we hear a lot about in the papers, in the news, because everyone is going through it. Every city's going through it. Every school district's going through it. That said, I'm happy to report that our finances are holding fast. When I first took office, we were in a $400,000 deficit in our fund balance, but we've been able to build that back up. We're using conservative budgeting practices, hard work, and we're able to keep the costs that are within our control flat, and we've been able to maintain a fund balance of $1 million. We also received another upgrade to our bond rating during 2012. It's our third bond rating. The bond rating is important. It affects how we can borrow money, which is important. It's kind of a double-edged sword. The good news is we can borrow money at a low rate. The bad news is we really don't want to be borrowing money. Probably the most important thing it gives us a third-party look at our finances. It's okay for me to stand up here and say we're doing good, but if we've got organizations like Moody's and Standard & Poor's saying we're doing okay, we can feel more comfortable with that. We've been able to stay under the 2% tax cap, although we were staying under that before the tax cap was made into law. So it's good to have something for us and the public to focus on. It's always good to have targets and goals, but we've been doing that, and we hope to continue to be able to do that. The turnaround that we made from deficit to fund balance is significant for a number of reasons. One, we did it in a down economy. Two, we've done it despite the increasing costs that we can't control. And not only have we turned it around, we've been able to maintain it, keeping a fund balance over the last several years. In reviewing our budget and those of the communities around us, though, we've noticed something alarming. Watervliet receives the lowest amount of state aid per capita than any other full-service municipality in the region and maybe in the state. While we're not asking the state to cut from others, we do think that equity is fair, and at a time when the state and the governor are asking us to do more with less, on an across-the-board basis, a review of the overall funding distribution is necessary and relevant. In economic development, no other issue has been talked about more in 2012 than the redevelopment of the St. Patrick's site. It's an issue we took very seriously and took our time to deliberate and listen to all parties involved. And it should be noted that a very tough decision was made after we followed a very regimented process. This process spanned 8 months and included close to 30 public meetings on the subject. We received input, both solicited and unsolicited, from the public far and wide, not just here in the city. And we received expert input from our engineering and legal resources. It's also important to keep in mind that Watervliet has at least 13 churches of various denominations in our small 1.5 square mile area. At one point, the Albany Diocese alone had 20 buildings, including schools, churches, rectories, convents, parish centers, etc. That said, with many of these churches closing, we have performed pretty well in reusing properties. There's only a few that are vacant. We've reused them where it was possible and where they were funded. For instance, School 1 is now the home to 8 apartments, and the developer is looking to do more. St. Bridget's Church and what we call the Old School is now a business called Wicked Smart. We, the city, as proprietors of our municipal buildings and even our own church, are well aware of the costs of maintenance and utilities in running these older structures. Even relatively minor repairs are very expensive, and there's fewer and fewer funding sources to tap in and take care of those. More importantly, as a potential cost bearer, the city that is, for demolition of unsafe buildings, we're fearful of the costs that we could be saddled with in the event these structures have to be taken down, especially on an emergency basis. As usual in economic development, we've supported and to continue to support small businesses in our main corridors on 19th Street and Route 32. In 2012, we had a committee which converted our comprehensive plan, which we completed in 2010-11, into a legal format for zoning that we'll review and vote on in 2013. This plan calls for us to work to create vibrant business corridors in these same areas I just talked about. And we are doing it overall and supporting each shop individually as much as we can. Sustainability and energy. There's a lot of effort at the state level, regional level on these subjects, and we've done our share there. In conjunction with our climate action plan that we adopted, we've also worked to reduce our energy consumption to lower costs as well as our greenhouse gas emissions. These programs range from installing new lighting and motion sensors to turn these lights on and off, new efficient motors to pump the drinking water down from Guilderland, to installing solar energy systems on a number of our city buildings. And these programs are now starting to pay off, and consumption's had marked decreases. The 3 solar projects have times in the year where we make more electricity than we use in those buildings. In those cases, we receive credits for the times when our usage exceeds what we produce. On an individual basis, the project savings are not huge in the dollar standpoint, but in the spirit of every little bit helps, we're showing yearly savings close to $50,000. And this is despite of the overall cost of electricity being about half of what it was when we started these projects. Another successful initiative is our ambulance service run by the Watervliet Fire Department. Last year was the first full year that we expanded that service outside of Watervliet to serve the village of Green Island. This partnership is maximizing resources between the 2 communities and has proven to be successful so far. In 2012, the department responded to 2,018 calls. It's about 6 per day. Over 1,400 of them were EMS calls, with over 1,100 of those being transporting people to the hospital in the ambulance, and 196 of those came from the village of Green Island. On a general note, there's an area that after you go through all these specific projects and things that we've accomplished, there's an area that I haven't really covered and I've been remiss in, is that the administrative support functions that take place primarily at City Hall, purchasing, accounting, payroll, buildings and codes. We probably log thousands and thousands of calls and requests each year, but it doesn't make the highlight film. So a huge thanks to those folks, as they also help contribute to the efficiency of doing business and keeping our costs low and the quality of the services high. That said, I'll jump into some specific highlights by department. The Refuse and Recycling Department, which is also the home to a lot of our green initiatives. This year we again included Green Island, in this case including Christmas trees. We've picked up almost 500 trees from Watervliet this year and almost 200 from Green Island. Big whoop, right? We're picking up trees. Well, we take these trees and we grind them up, and we're using the chipped trees from that to mix with organic waste and make compost down in the river park. The compost can be used in our parks and recreational areas as well as shared with the residents. Based on the results from a trial phase, the Watervliet Organic Waste Program, or WOW as we call it, is showing potential to make a great impact on our solid waste disposal. By diverting food waste from the landfills, we can prolong the life of the landfill, which is really not our main concern, but we can also decrease the cost of disposing of our waste. We pay about $50 a ton, and we have to drive the waste down to either Albany or over to Troy. If we can get citywide participation in a program similar to the trial, we can save around $30,000 per year, and that equates to a 1% increase of taxes. The waste from the ongoing trial is currently being composted, as I said, down in the river park. Our long-term plans are to anaerobically digest the waste and use the compost as a backup. The trial has helped us to work out the logistics of collection, picking up the waste, and having the folks at home separate the waste. And we're under an intermunicipal agreement with other communities to develop the processing technology, the actual digestion. This is one of our many green initiatives. It's begun to attract attention. We recently had delegations from Kosovo and India visit to learn more about what we're doing there in our WOW program and the potential it has. Myself and other city officials have spoken at multiple conferences about it, and it's being used as an example of how municipalities can better utilize their resources and become more environmentally conscious. Water distribution. The Watervliet Reservoir and watershed protection of that watershed is a big part of our operations, and I'm going to take some time to talk a little bit about the reservoir. You may or may not know that we even have one. But the retention, distribution, and treating of water is a very important part of the city operations. It creates a revenue stream that contributes to the entire city operation. And it all starts with the reservoir in Guilderland. The reservoir was created by building a dam in 1916 with the sole purpose of creating a drinking water reservoir. Since 1983, the city constructed and operates a hydroelectric plant at the dam, and that's a revenue source for us. It also offsets the costs of pumping the water all the way down from Guilderland. The reservoir is supplied by a watershed that is over 100 square miles, and it touches several counties, including northwestern Albany County and southwestern Schenectady County. The Watervliet Reservoir is the primary drinking water source for the town of Guilderland. We supply them with over 4 million gallons of water every day, as well as for the city of Watervliet, and we're down in the 2 million to 3 million gallon per day range. We're working to continue to educate the public, not only our public, but those that live in the watershed, as we need to be more conscious of it. It's a valuable resource, not only to us, but to all of Western Albany County. Through a grant awarded by the Royal Bank of Canada and its Blue Water Project, we've produced an informative document on the watershed, its importance and the need for protecting it, and that can be found on our website if you're interested. In the Parks and Rec area, once again this winter we're growing flowers and other plants inside the dome. We're using this with high-powered growing lights, and due to some of our energy-saving costs there, we're not incurring any extra costs to have the lights run. This year, the elementary school children will help us transfer the flowers into pots and get them ready for going out into the community for planting in the spring. The farmers market is back again down at the River Park, anchoring the activities down there. It's Tuesdays from 2:30 to 5:30. We encourage everyone to stop down and support that. It's run by many of the local businesses, and we're continuously looking for things to do down there to make it a more worthwhile stop. For instance, we have the Watervliet Fire Department down there doing blood pressure checks, so you can get your vegetables and get your blood pressure checked. Skate park. We're in the process of converting the old pool down at the 15th Street Park into a small skateboard park. Our hopes that we can pull the skateboarders away from the residents and businesses and the front walkway of the school and get them into a place where they can do whatever they wish, I guess. They also do this in the dome on certain nights, so we're trying to give the place for these activities so they're not have to be chased away all the time. 2012, we had the 31st running of the Arts City Run. The 5K event had almost 300 people, and we had over 100 in the fun run, the mile fun run. The proceeds from this every year go to the Adopt a Family program here in the city. In the public works area, the main project last year, it was probably one of the biggest projects we undertook in-house in a while. We replaced a 4-inch water main on 2nd Avenue, replaced it with a 10-inch main, and then repaved the entire street from 16th Street to 13th. And that paving completed the paving of the entire run of 2nd Avenue from the city limits to 13th. That's almost a mile of paving, new paving, on one of our heaviest traveled streets. Each year, we work with Cahos to share the vacuum truck that we use to clean out the catch bases. That's part of our regulatory compliance best practices that we need to clean out a third of those every year. And this partnership with Cahos saves us thousands of dollars from having to go out and purchase our own or rent one from a private company. In the community development area, although these grants were not received last year, we start to see the impact of many of them. $265,000 Main Street grant. You can see that reflected in the Cannon Barrel Pub that got $75,000 for both exterior and interior work. School number 1, as I mentioned previously, was $109,000, and that converted the old school classrooms, leaving a lot of that intact, and it's now 8 high-end apartments. Wood burning warehouse on the corner of the bend there as you go into Port Schuyler, $40,000. They redid the facade and its natural materials. And the city, the residents got $26,000 towards the what we call the Erie Canal Park, or the 7th Street Park, where we excavated and exposed part of the canal. It's got some pictographs now, which are showing what the canal looked like in its day and what that meant to the city at the time. The natural shape of it also makes it perfect for pickup football. I see a lot of folks playing football down in the bowl down there. Micro Enterprise Program, we have a $216,000 program. This is designed to help small businesses of 5 or less employees, and they can use the money to offset the startup costs if they're new, or purchasing new equipment for expansion if they're an existing company. And most recently, a graduate or recipient of that grant program, the local Flavor Cafe, which is where Mr. Sub used to be on 19th, celebrated its grand opening. And we have several candidate businesses lined up to take advantage of that in 2013. As far as community development block grants, we've got a $105,000 community development grant that funded Wicked Smart, which I mentioned is now occupying St. Bridget's, both the old school, which is their offices, and the church, which is their factory. They do screen printing of athletic apparel. On the public safety side, the Watervliet Police Department, we continue to provide quality, efficient service to the community and public at large. And knock on wood, but we just don't seem to have some of the violent crime that we read about in the papers in some of the communities nearby. And I believe that's due to the proactive approach and efforts of the WPD. 2012 was manned almost seamlessly, although we were down as many as 4 officers at one time due to disability injury or absence for a military deployment. And of course, we continue to work with the school district on the Student Resource Officer Program, also known as Sergeant Spain. We saw the retirement last year of Chris Wallian, who was a patrolman with over 25 years of service. And we've been lucky enough that we were able to replace some of these folks with new hires recently. Entering 2012, we're approaching our first full year of merging the dispatching services with Albany County Sheriff's Department. Like any new program, we've worked through some bugs and issues there, but I think people are starting to settle in with that, and hopefully as time goes on, that'll become a seamless program, and it's a program that saved the city some money, but we're still providing the same quality service. The fire department, as mentioned previously, their number of calls is more and more dealing with emergency medical service. Us expanding to have ambulance service fits into that nicely. They had a very busy year. We saw the retirement of Battalion Chief Remillard after an incredible 35 years in public service. I don't know if it's in the public safety world, it's difficult to make it through, especially in this day and age, without some sort of injury that prevents you from doing a pretty tough job. And Battalion Chief Remillard did it for 35 years, and he'll be missed. The department was also awarded yet another Assistance to Firefighter grant in December for $242,000. Captain Egan, who writes these grants for us in the fire department is 6 out of 10 over the last 10 years. 60% is pretty good batting average, and he's netted us, along with those who helped him write the grants, about $1.4 million. There's a small cost share associated with that, but it's very difficult to get $1.4 million handed to you these days. These funds, the latest funds, will be used towards rapid intervention team equipment, the breathing apparatus and such that allows the firefighters to go into buildings to bring out those that are trapped inside. Wrapping it up, I've just described what most would consider a very successful year for us. As usual, I need to add the caveat that this is only a snapshot in time. Due to the flow-down nature of many of our revenues and expenses, the mandatory nature of our expenses, and the impact of the general economy, this positive position could turn negative in a relatively short period of time. We remind ourselves of this constantly to avoid, as I said, getting into routine and always trying to stay one step ahead. We've taken many progressive steps forward this year to cut costs, increase energy efficiency, and have worked to minimize our carbon footprint. Throughout, we have done more with less. This presentation is an example of how we work continuously also on sharing information. I'd like to take advantage of this time to ask you all to break out of your routine and get involved and become more aware of what is going on in the city. There's actually a lot going on. How can you do that? Volunteer programs, there's mandatory programs like that will probably take place on Sunday. Moving your car when there's a snow emergency. Passing of policies and laws goes on 2 times a month at the council meetings. How we spend tax money. We get very little turnout when we go over the budget. We're spending $11 million of the taxpayers' money and 5 or 6 people show up. It's getting to the point where you just can't be a citizen and say, I didn't know about this, or I didn't know that was going on. We've got a lot of avenues for you to stay involved. Our website, Facebook, Twitter, WVLT, which is here filming live today, email, and if all else fails, you can go old school and pick up the phone and call City Hall. Call my office if you can't get through the press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Other than that, I'll leave you and allow you to get back to finishing your day, and I thank you for your attention. Is there any instruction for what these folks are going to do?